Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, before we get started, if you could give me a like, share, a thumbs up, comment, and don't forget the subscribe and notification buttons, I would appreciate it. So we're actually going to get right into the Lindsay Clancy trial, and this is day number 12. I actually missed it, and I'm kind of glad I did because what I'm hearing, the afternoon testimony was really, really rough to listen to. What I'm going to read is from Reddit, and apparently, even on Reddit, they're telling you, listen, this is some rough testimony, so if you need a break mentally, take the break. And that's just from listening to it. So I think it was a very rough day. So let's get into this. Again, this is from Reddit. If you would prefer me to play the videos, we can do that. Like I said before, I wasn't thrilled with the audio, but I can certainly get that figured out if you would prefer to listen to it like that. So, the first witness today was Dan Lawler. He's with the Massachusetts State Police Sergeant. He was called by the Commonwealth. So, his testimony on the direct was he responded to South Shore Hospital January 24th, 2023. He observed Lindsay Clancy intubated, unable to speak with injuries. He collected tank top, jeans, bra, all cut off and blood-stained. Served preservation notice for blood and urine. Went to Boston Children's Hospital, confirmed Callan alive but critical. Executed search warrant at 47 Summer Street, served as evidence officer. Inventory prescription bottles. There was trazodone, 20 of those. Diazepam, 5 milligrams. Diazepam, 2 milligrams. And amitriptyline. Now, the diazepam 5 milligrams had 2.5 pills left. The diazepam 2 milligram had 9.5 left. And the amitriptyline had 22 in the bottle. He observed blood on the floor, mirror, window area. No Apple Watch found. Assisted custody watch at Brigham and Women's. Psychiatrist Paul Ziesel visited under court order. On cross-examination, the hospital scene was severe. Lindsay heavily tubed. No recollection of shoes. Search collaborative, evidence reported among investigators. Does not recall blood on phones. Confirms no Apple Watch. Confirms psychiatrist visit. Door closed. Did not overhear. On the redirect recross, investigative conversations do not affect testimony. Heard nothing inside the psychiatric visit. The exhibits that were referenced were number 223, that were jeans. Her bra exhibit was 155. The next step was Letitia Dukes. She's a licensed mental health counselor, and she was called by the Commonwealth. So the direct was, she was the first contact with Lindsay December 2nd, 2022, and that was an in-person contact. Lindsay reported postpartum anxiety, depression, passive suicidal sorry about that. Passive suicidal ideation, prior Prozac and Ativan use, concerns about addiction, weight loss, panic attacks, ER visit. She was recently prescribed Remeron and Seroquel. The diagnosis was postpartum anxiety. Recommended weekly therapy. December 5th, telehealth. Intrusive thoughts of wanting to die. Aspire crisis contacted. No plan. Husband joined. So Patrick also joined that telehealth visit. Um, she reviewed the sleep hygiene. Lindsay requested psychological testing, consulted Rebecca Gelada, sent outside testing info. December 12th was another telehealth visit. Lindsay planned Norwell PHP, recommended women and infants. Lindsay consented. Continued passive SI, no plan, protective factors identified. December 19th was another telehealth. Low mood, numbness, improved sleep, increased engagement, no SI. December 27th was a phone visit. Referral completed, husband raised prescription concerns, redirected to prescriber. The cross-examination. Could access NP records but did not review before intake. Lindsay honest and forthcoming. No mania, delusion, paranoia, psychosis across all visits. No safety concerns for Lindsay or others. Recommendations remained IOP/PHP only. And then on the redirect, which was the recross, they just clarified that the references. Number 3, this was Nicole Bradley. She was Assistant Deputy Superintendent of the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, and she was called by the Commonwealth. She oversees the hospital watch, confirms logs kept in ordinary course of business. Lindsay Clancy under hospital watch, January 25th to February 3rd, 2023. Number 4 was Renee Stoneridge, Director of Cardiac and Neuropathology. She was called by the Commonwealth. On direct examination, she said she was board certified in forensic, clinical neuropathology. I'm going to pause for a second and just let you know that some of these medical terms, they need to be for normal people like me that don't know what the hell they're talking about, but we'll just go with that. So, she examined Cora Clancy, eyes, Dawson Clancy, eyes, Callan Clancy, brain, dura, spinal cord, and eyes. Cora had acute hemorrhage in extraocular muscles, extraocular muscles slash adipose tissue, punctate hemorrhage of left optic nerve sheath consistent with asphyxial mechanism. Dawson had acute hemorrhages around eyes, small hemorrhages in posterior retina and optic nerve sheath. Callan had brain injury, edema, ventricular compression, consistent with prolonged lack of oxygen and blood, and he brain dead after 6 to 8 minutes. Number 5 was Barbara Olson, medical examiner, formerly Barbara Vidal. She was called by the Commonwealth as well. The direct was, she performed the autopsy on Cora Clancy, January 25th, 2023. External exam showed medical intervention, intubation, IVs, cervical collar, hands covered with evidence bags, no injuries to fingers. She had neck trauma, ligature furrow, linear pallor with distinct edges, abrasions, and bruising, face injuries, diffuse, hemorrhages on skin, eyelids, and lips. And then they showed photos. So the exhibits that were admitted were 223, that was the tank top. Jeans were admitted, bra was admitted. Exhibit 155 were for prescription pill bottles. 227 was the Plymouth County Sheriff's Hospital watch logs. Number 2246 was the photo of the hemorrhages. And number 7784 was a photo of the ligature furrow. And all of those were admitted. So out of the jury's presence, there was an issue. And the issue was whether psychiatrist Paul Ziesel told Lindsay to say she heard voices. The ruling was the jury was excused, and the action was the jury returned, cross resumed. And they did sidebars, things like that. There was a lot of sidebars too. The issues of the sidebars: exhibit objections, media order reminders, and scheduling. The action was exhibits admitted, warnings reinitiated. And that is the end of the day administration. They just went over what's going to happen for today and things like that. The other thing that I wanted to read to you was just some of these comments, because like I said, it's interesting to read the comments on these, just from the public's opinion. Like this one, it says, the prosecution is going way too far with all the details of death, and I feel it will backfire. Lindsay's wailing in court is a primal cry, and it's impossible the jury isn't feeling the pain she is going through. This case should have never been prosecuted, and she should be institutionalized. The prosecutors seem heartless, and it's cruel to go over and over about the details of strangulation. We all know what happened. So these are some of the things that are being they're kind of going back and forth with in the trial. And on Reddit, they're talking about the different topics and what commenters are saying on Reddit. So we'll go through that real fast. As far as mental health and treatment, so it's access versus effective care. Many commentators note she had resources but question whether that prevented a psychotic break. Quote unquote, this woman had the help only 1%ers can afford, yet people are claiming she had no help and was never listened to. Next is providers and medication management. Reddit posts flag complex prescribing and possible poor medication decisions, titration, and note she saw multiple prescribers, including psychiatric nurse practitioners. Therapy engagement. Several comments report she was repeatedly referred to therapy, but only attended a few sessions, and may have been ambivalent about talk therapy. Quote unquote, she was referred to see a therapist multiple times and only went once or twice. We can't make people go. Sleep and crisis recognition. Sleep deprivation and its role in precipitating psychosis is emphasized. Some argue clinicians don't treat her as being in an acute crisis. Quote unquote. Not sleeping at all for multiple days at a time is a crisis warranting rapid intervention, and sleep deprivation alone can cause psychosis. So, the next topic is evidence, timeline, and alternative theories discussed publicly. Redditors discussed phone records, Apple Watch activity, surveillance footage, which was at the CVS and the restaurant, and timing gaps as focal points for both prosecution and public speculation. Forensic details under debate would be fingerprints, DNA on the exercise bands, crushed pills, wound character, and her low body temperature are repeatedly cited and disputed by commentators as they examined who had opportunity or whether staging is alleged. Quote unquote. The murder weapon did not have Lindsay's fingerprints on them. It only had Patrick's and the children's fingerprints. So the conspiracy on that is a large volume of social media driven speculation targets Patrick, which is the ex-husband, as possibly responsible or complicit. Reddit users caution much of that is conjecture and lacks proof. Quote unquote, the claims that her husband actually committed the murders seem to be mostly conspiracy theory and don't seem to hold any water at all. Again, that's just the theory and a conspiracy theory. He was never charged. He wasn't there. And we know that because of the videos from the restaurant and CVS. So I think we can safely say that it wasn't Patrick. Could be wrong, but okay. So trial testimony and public reaction. Medical testimony shaping public opinion. Release of medical records, diaries, and testimony about her injuries and mental state have shifted public perception from outright moral condemnation towards sympathy and question about systematic failures. Quote unquote, the story only got sadder. The next is views on blame and responsibility. Reddit threads show a split. Many empathize with postpartum mental illness and criticize clinicians. Others focus on physical evidence and timeline inconsistencies implicating the husband or procedural failures. Quote unquote. Many women see themselves in how Lindsay felt with PPD. The hive mind has turned her into the victim and Patrick into the villain. So it says what Redditors say about next steps and what to watch. It would be further for forensic testimony, DNA fingerprints, timelines, clarifications from phones, email logs, psychiatric expert witnesses about postpartum psychosis and medication effects, and any therapist testimony about engagement or referrals. Quote unquote, there will be more to come, and perhaps the therapist she met with twice will testify. The public discourse note. Expect ongoing social media narratives, polls, TikToks, threads, amplifying suspicious or sympathy. Quote unquote, speculation mixed with loose facts. So, in hearing all that and in saying all that, it's very mixed. It's very mixed reviews. I cannot talk today, guys. I'm so sorry. Very mixed reviews. And like I said, the one I'm waiting for is the defense. Definitely want to hear that one. So Um, that was day, what are we on now? 12. It is ridiculous how these days are just flying. That was day 12. Again, like I said before, if you would rather hear the audio, we can do that. Just let me know. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for taking a listen, and we will talk soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.